Who would have guessed a rusty old table saw blade could make such a nice batarang? In this project, we're turning some old shop accessories into high-speed superhero throwing stars. After changing out this 10-inch saw blade, I wondered what could be done with the old one. Then the answer became obvious. Make a custom shuriken. To get started on this project, we're going to need a paper template and a stick of glue. Let's go ahead and glue the picture directly to the saw blade, smoothing out any creases, and let it dry for about 10 minutes. Now we'll need to fasten the blade securely to a table, making sure there's something to protect the tabletop from the saw blade, because we'll be cutting this pattern with a jigsaw. You can see these jigsaw blades have 30 teeth per inch and are made for cutting metal. Let's start the blade in a groove between the teeth and begin cutting the straight lines first. Now I'm cutting very slowly because I don't have any oil to dissipate the heat, and going too fast could ruin the blade within minutes. You can see I continue to straight line all the way across the top, giving easy access to the more intricate cuts inside. The tight curves are going to take a lot of time and patience, but with some persistence you should end up with something like this, although it does look a little rough around the edges. To fix that, let's gather up a couple of half-round metal files. I'm going to use my bench vise to hold the batarang for better leverage, and here you can see it definitely looks terrible. But let's go ahead anyway and use the flat side of the small file to begin grinding down the sharp points. The contours can be worked with the rounded edge, and after a few minutes you can already start to see a noticeable improvement. The larger file helps smooth and shape the bottom curves, and the goal here is to make everything symmetrical. Now if we carefully file the edges at an angle, you can see it adds a bit of a bevel to the top of the wing. I angled both sides of the wingtips to make them look sharper and seem a bit more authentic. This actually looks pretty awesome in silver, but let's go one step further and paint it black. Now if we push the wingtip into a piece of cardboard, the batarang should stand upright and we can hit it with a few shots of spray paint. Make sure it's the kind that can be used on metal, and after a couple of hours the paint should be dry enough to handle. At this point it's nearly finished, and you might be thinking I forgot to paint the tip, but watch what happens if we use something like sandpaper or a sanding sponge on the beveled edges. It re-exposes the steel, blending the unpainted tip with the outer edges once again. Our superhero shuriken is completely finished, and we don't even have to sharpen the blade. I went ahead and built a throwing post from a length of 2x8 and added a dartboard to use for a target. Now to throw a batarang, just take 3 paces away from the target, hold it by the bottom wing, and throw it with a bit of a flick in the wrist. If you did it right, it should make one full rotation and stick firmly into the target. Now if you adjust your distance in small increments, you'll eventually find the sweet spot where it sticks perfectly upright just about every time. A distance of 3 steps equals 1 full rotation, so from 6 paces it should spin twice. Now it's important to be safe when handling these things, and they should be treated with the same respect as a throwing knife or a throwing star. You can see that after 2 hours of practicing, my target took an incredible beating because these are the real deal. Using this method, I was able to make 5 batarangs from the one saw blade, and you can see I made each one a little bit different. Well, now you know how to turn rusty old saw blades into a collection of custom superhero throwing stars. Just remember to be safe and never throw them at people or property. That's it for now. If you like this project, perhaps you'll like some of my others. Check them out at thekingofrandom.com.
Hey guys, I just wanted to thank you for watching my video and for giving me your support. I want to let you know that I really feel that. I notice when you like, I notice when you comment, I notice the little things that you do to show your support as fans. And it makes a huge difference to me because I'm balancing a family and work and other things to try and make these videos for you. So thank you for being a part of this community and giving me excitement and motivation for doing these projects. And I also want to thank Opinion Outpost. They're a company who sponsored this video and made it possible for me to bring you these videos for free. I put a link to them in the description. I checked it out with my own free sign-up account. I did my own surveys, and it seems like a point system where you do so many points and you can trade it in for cash or gift cards like Amazon and iTunes. So the money's real, I've seen it, and if you are over 18 and have some extra time, want to make some extra money, definitely recommend checking out Opinion Outpost in the link below. It's another way to show some support because they are tracking to see who signs up from my videos. So maybe they'll sponsor me again. Anyway, thanks again for being here. Thanks for being part of my community. And I'm gonna try and do more appearances like this at the end of my videos because I don't feel like I really get a chance to talk to you. I am gonna be reading the comments, so if you have any questions, let me know down below. And in the meantime, let me know where you're from. I'd love to know where in the world you're watching from. So let me know in the comments below where you are right now. Thanks again, and feel free to pick another video off to the side here. I've got plenty more things to watch. I'll see you next time.